I'm Luna, and I had what I considered to be the ideal existence for 30 years. My paradise was our large home, which was situated just outside the city boundaries and looked to be an infinite source of delight. Our son Jake, a rising football star at his college, was the joy of our life, and my husband Tom was my pillar of support. I recall the day Jake brought his girlfriend Sarah home. Her eyes were lovely, and her smile was soft. She was a sweet kid. I instantly warmed up to her, recognizing in her the daughter I was never able to have. Their frequent visits would fill our home with their upbeat laughter and aspirations for the future. I couldn't help but imagine wedding bells for them as I watched them. They appeared to be so in tune and flawless as a pair. Sarah was already beginning to feel like a member of our family. I saw that Jake was getting more and more excited about something as the days went by. After practice, he virtually vibrated with intensity as he burst into the home. I initially attributed it to his love of football and his bond with Sarah, but there was something more going on, something I couldn't quite place. Jake came bounding into the kitchen one evening as I was making dinner, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "Look what, Mom?" "I'm heading to a tournament in the state next door." I grinned at his enthusiasm as I turned away from the stove. "That's fantastic, my dear. What time is it?" He answered, taking an apple from the fruit dish. "We're leaving next week." "Mom, it's really important. That might significantly alter the course of my career." I found something strange about the way he was acting. Although Jake had attended numerous tournaments in the past, he had never been this excited about one. "Are you okay, Jake?" I looked at his face as I asked. "You seem different." He laughed and dismissed my worries. "Mom, I'm doing okay, superior to satisfactory. You shouldn't be concerned about me. All I can say is that this is a tremendously significant opportunity." I nodded, willing to let it go, even though I wasn't quite convinced. "That's okay, my love. Just keep in mind that you can chat to me about anything at any time." After a grueling 3 months, Jake was still missing. I wasn't too worried at first. Sometimes these contests went longer than anticipated, particularly if the team was performing well. He told me that everything was okay every time I called, which I did on a regular basis. Simply put, the competitions were going on longer than we anticipated. "Don't worry about me," he would remark. Since Jake had never lied to me before, I decided to believe him. How come he would start now? Even so, I couldn't get rid of the uneasy sensation I was having as the weeks passed. I expressed my worries to Tom one evening while we were sitting on the porch. "Don't you think it's odd that Jake's been gone so long?" Tom took a deep swallow of his coffee. "It's strange, but we should believe him if he claims everything is well. Little, he's grown up now." 3 months later, Jake came back. However, I could not have anticipated the shocking revelation he revealed to us. One evening, he declared, "Mom, Dad, I've decided I want to live separately. I'm going to lease a flat." Tom and I exchanged a look of surprise. While unexpected, this was not wholly irrational. I mean, Jake was an adult. "If that's what you want, son," Tom responded, "we support your decision." I gave a nod of agreement that was tinged with regret. Our child was maturing rapidly. Just know you're always welcome here. For the next 3 weeks, Jake paid us very little visits. Rather, he would frequently send texts requesting money. I would transfer the money each time, thinking that it would make him more self-sufficient. I made an effort to ignore the persistent sense that our connection had changed. The phone call that would completely upend our world then arrived. "I'm coming over tonight, Mom," Jake snapped over the phone. "I won't be alone myself when I break this critical news." Excitement jumped into my heart. Is that possible? Were Jake and Sarah making a move at last? "That's wonderful, honey." I let out a cry. I'll cook up a special dinner for us all." I looked to Tom and grinned broadly as I hung up. "I think our boy is finally going to make it official with Sarah." Tom laughed and drew me into an embrace. "It's about time, I suppose. They are a wonderful couple." I was busy cooking Jake's favorite foods and arranging the table with our finest china for the remainder of the day. Since this was a significant event, I wanted nothing less than perfection. I heard a car pull into the driveway as dusk was falling. I straightened my clothing and headed to the door, my pulse pounding with excitement. However, what I saw upon arriving was not what I had anticipated. Yes, Jake was standing there, but the woman at his side wasn't Sarah. This girl was unfamiliar to me. She was breathtakingly gorgeous and wore provocative, colorful clothes that didn't seem appropriate for a family meal. With an unusually flat voice, Jake stated, "Mom, I'd like you to meet Veronica, my wife." The entire globe appeared to be tilted. There had to be some horrible prank going on here since this could not be real. However, the confident grin on Veronica's face and the rebellious expression in Jake's eyes told me it was all too true. In a haze, we all made our way to the dining area. I kept looking at Veronica as we sat down at the table I'd so painstakingly set up. Yes, she was gorgeous, but there was something unsettlingly icy about her gaze that troubled me. Seemingly unaffected by the strain, Jake began to describe their wedding. At that brand new, elegant location downtown, we had a fantastic ceremony. Mom, you ought to have seen it. The music, the flowers. Everything was just right. Every statement twisted my heart like a dagger. "How could you celebrate your wedding without the people closest to you?" I questioned, trying not to cry. Jake froze in place. "My spouse is the one who I'm closest to," he said. "I want to make her happy." With a smug look on her lips, Veronica raised her head. Jake went on, his tone somewhat becoming softer. "Veronica's parents left her behind a long time ago. She was reared by her grandma, who recently died away. We chose not to invite any family members since I didn't want Veronica to feel alone at our wedding. We only celebrated with our pals." I sat there, attempting to take in this knowledge. Then it dawned on me. "Jake, how is Sarah doing? What took place with her?" Jake shifted in his chair uneasily. He said, "I left her. She cheated on me. I was hearing things that I couldn't believe. Is sweet Sarah being unfaithful? That was nonsensical." Trying to understand more about this woman who had suddenly become part of our family, I turned to Veronica. "So, Veronica," I began, attempting to keep my voice steady, "where are you from originally?" Veronica's eyes narrowed slightly, but she remained silent. Undeterred, I pressed on. "What do you do for a living? Are you working somewhere at the moment?" Again, Veronica avoided answering, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Perhaps you could tell us a bit about your interests. What do you like to do in your free time?" I tried once more, desperation creeping into my voice. At this, Veronica abruptly stood up. "I'm not obliged to discuss my personal life with outsiders," she announced hotly. "We're leaving." Without so much as a thank you for the dinner, she strode towards the door. Jake jumped up to follow her, pausing only to ask me to pack some food for them and for money for their honeymoon. As the door slammed behind them, Tom and I sat in stunned silence. The next day, still reeling from the previous night's events, I decided to call Jake. I needed answers, needed to understand what was going on. But when the call connected, it wasn't Jake's voice I heard. "Jake's busy right now." Veronica's cold voice came through the speaker. "He can't talk, but you can send money for our honeymoon to his card. I have nothing else to discuss with you." The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, shock giving way to a deep, aching sadness. What had happened to my sweet boy, and how had this woman gained such control over him? With a heavy heart, I transferred several thousand to Jake's account. It was all I could do, the only way I could still feel connected to my son. Weeks passed, and life settled into an uneasy rhythm. Tom and I tried to come to terms with Jake's sudden marriage, but the silence from our son was deafening. Then, out of the blue, my phone rang. It was Jake. "Mom," he said, his voice brimming with excitement. "I've got amazing news. Veronica's pregnant. We're going to have a baby." My heart leaped. A grandchild. Despite everything, joy surged through me. "Oh, Jake, that's wonderful news." "Yeah, it's great," he continued, his tone shifting slightly. "But, we need some help. Preparing for a baby is expensive, you know." I transferred a substantial amount to Jake's account, my heart full of hope. Maybe this baby would bring our family back together. A few weeks later, I was tidying up the living room when I heard a car pull up. To my surprise, Jake and Veronica burst through the front door without knocking. Veronica strode past me, her eyes scanning every corner of our home. "This house will do nicely," she declared in a matter-of-fact tone. "I'm sorry." "What?" I stammered, confused. Jake stepped forward, his face set in determination. "Mom, we've decided that we're going to live here. You and Dad need to find somewhere else to stay." I felt as if I'd been slapped. "What are you talking about? This is our home." Veronica turned to me, her eyes cold. "For the proper development of our child, we need freedom and space. This house is perfect." Anger bubbled up inside me. "Absolutely not. This is our home, and you can't just demand we leave." Veronica's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Fine, but you can forget about having any relationship with your son or your future grandchild." Before I could respond, they turned and stormed out, leaving me standing in shock. From that day on, my phone was flooded with messages from Jake, each one demanding we give them the house. Each one was more insulting and threatening than the last. I couldn't believe the cruel words coming from my son. What had happened to him? 2 weeks of this torment passed before Jake showed up at our door again, his face contorted with rage. "You need to give us this house," he shouted. "Veronica is threatening to divorce me if you don't. Do you want to ruin my marriage?" I tried to reason with him. "Jake, honey, can't you see she's blackmailing you? This isn't right." His face turned an alarming shade of red. "Don't you dare talk about Veronica like that. You're not worth a hair on her head." That was the final straw. Without a word, Tom grabbed Jake by the arm and forcefully escorted him out the door, slamming it behind him. As Jake's angry shouts faded, I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. Tom knelt beside me, wrapping his arms around me. Weeks passed, and life settled into an uneasy rhythm. Tom and I tried to process the drastic changes in our son's behavior, but the pain and confusion lingered. One day, while shopping for groceries, I heard a familiar voice call out my name. "Luna!" I turned to see Sarah, Jake's ex-fiancée, standing by the produce section. My heart skipped a beat when I noticed her heavily pregnant belly. Memories of Jake's accusations about her cheating flooded back, and I found myself at a loss for words. Gathering my composure, I managed to smile. "Sarah, I had no idea you were expecting. How are you feeling?" Sarah's eyes welled up with tears. "It's not easy," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Being pregnant and abandoned, it's been tough." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. Abandoned? That didn't align with Jake's story at all. Sensing there was more to this situation, I gently probed for details. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. Can you tell me what happened?" Jake told us, "Well, he said you had cheated on him." Sarah's eyes widened in disbelief. "Cheated, Luna?" "No, that's not what happened at all." Over the next half hour, as we stood in a quiet corner of the grocery store, Sarah revealed the truth that shattered my world. Jake hadn't gone to any sports competition, she explained, her voice trembling. He had met a girl online and gone to meet her in another state. He was gone for 3 months. Remember? I nodded, the pieces starting to fall into place. Sarah continued. When I found out I was pregnant, I called Jake to tell him the news, but he told me he had married someone else. He refused to have anything to do with the baby. My legs felt weak. I leaned against the shopping cart for support, trying to process this information. Our Jake, our sweet boy, had lied to us all. He had abandoned Sarah and their unborn child for a woman he barely knew. We parted ways with promises to stay in touch, and I headed home in a daze. My mind was reeling from the revelations. Jake's story about the extended competition, his sudden marriage to Veronica, his cruel treatment of us, it all made a twisted kind of sense now. As I walked through our front door, Tom took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "Lil, what happened?" he asked, concern etched on his features. I sank into a chair at the kitchen table, feeling the weight of the truth pressing down on me. "Tom, sit down," I said. "There's something you need to know about Jake." As I recounted my conversation with Sarah, I watched the color drain from Tom's face. Our son had lied to us, abandoned his pregnant fiancée, and married a virtual stranger. In the days following my encounter with Sarah, Tom and I had many long, difficult conversations. We both felt a deep sense of responsibility towards Sarah and her unborn child, our grandchild. "We need to help her, Tom," I said one evening. "She shouldn't have to go through this alone." Tom nodded in agreement. "You're right. Let's reach out to her." When we approached Sarah with our offer of support, she initially refused, her pride and hurt evident in her eyes. But as the weeks passed and we gently persisted, she eventually accepted our help. I began to see her often, accompanying her to doctor's appointments, helping her prepare for the baby's arrival, and simply being there as a shoulder to cry on. One evening, as I returned home from helping Sarah set up the nursery, Tom met me with a serious expression. "Lil, there's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice grave. "I hired a private detective." I stared at him in shock. "You did what?" Tom sighed heavily. "I needed to know what was really going on with Jake. The detective's report came in today, and Lil, it's worse than we thought." Over the next hour, Tom revealed the detective's findings. Jake had dropped out of college, abandoning his sports career and education to get a job supporting Veronica's extravagant spending habits. The detective had overheard a conversation between Jake and Veronica, where they coldly discussed plans to force us out of our home and claim it for themselves. But the most shocking revelation was about Veronica's past. She had a history of pursuing wealthy men for their money. The detective discovered that Veronica had become pregnant by one of these men and had manipulated Jake into marriage by claiming the child was his. I stood up, my mind racing. "We have to tell Jake. We have to make him see what's happening." But Tom shook his head sadly. "Lil, he won't believe us. You've seen how he is now. If we try to tell him, he'll only push us further away." As much as it pained me, I knew Tom was right. Jake was so under Veronica's influence that any attempt to reveal the truth would likely backfire. "What do we do then?" I asked, feeling helpless. Tom took my hand in his. "For now, we focus on Sarah and the baby. They're the ones who truly need us right now." I nodded, fighting back tears. "You're right. Sarah needs us, and that baby, our grandchild. They're innocent in all of this." As we sat there processing all we had learned, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anger, sadness, and fear for Jake. But I also felt a renewed sense of purpose. We might not be able to help Jake right now, but we could be there for Sarah and her baby. And maybe, just maybe, by showing Jake what real love and support looked like, we could eventually break through to him. Just when Tom and I thought things couldn't get any worse, we woke up one morning to find our house defaced with cruel, insulting graffiti. greedy olders, selfish bastards, and other hurtful words were spray-painted across our walls in angry red letters. Shocked and hurt, we immediately called our neighbor across the street, who had outdoor security cameras. We watched the footage with heavy hearts, witnessing our own son vandalizing our home in the dead of night. The sight of Jake sneaking around like a common criminal left us speechless. We didn't confront Jake about the graffiti. Instead, we quietly painted over the hateful words and put our house on the market. Within weeks, we had sold our longtime home and purchased a new one not far from where Sarah lived with her newborn son, our grandson. The day Sarah brought little Thomas home from the hospital was bittersweet. As I held that tiny bundle in my arms, my heart swelled with love and broke simultaneously. This was my grandson, Jake's son. Yet Jake wanted nothing to do with him. Weeks passed, and we settled into our new life. Then, out of the blue, my phone rang. It was Jake calling from an unfamiliar number. "Mom!" he shouted, his voice filled with rage. "What the hell is going on? I went to the house and there are strangers living there. They threatened to call the cops on me." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "Why did you go there, Jake? To vandalize our home again?" There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end. "That's right," I continued. "We know it was you. We sold the house, Jake, and we've cut you out of our lives." Jake's shock quickly turned to anger. "You can't do this to me," he yelled. "Veronica might leave me because of you. I'll never see my son." I couldn't help but laugh, a sad, hollow sound. "Oh, Jake, that child isn't yours. Veronica lied to you." "What are you talking about?" he sputtered. "Jake, our private investigator, was recruited. We are fully aware of Veronica's past, her deception regarding your paternity, and your intentions to inherit our home. I'm providing the proof to you right now." Jake took a short inhale, and I heard it as I clicked the submit button on the email that included the detective's report. "Jake, you're a fool," I remarked, a little softer in tone. "You gave up on Sarah and your biological son in favor of a lady who has been deceiving you from the beginning. I'm hoping you'll recognize what you've thrown away eventually." My hand trembling a little, I hung up the phone with that. The next 6 months were a blur of cooing babies, restless nights, and pure bliss. As devoted grandparents, Tom and I had become comfortable in our responsibilities and were enjoying every second we had with little Thomas. Even though it was smaller, our new house was fuller of laughter and love than it had been in years. Our neighbor stopped over one lovely day as we were sitting on our porch enjoying the view of Sarah pushing Thomas in the swing we had set up in the backyard. She had some unexpected news. "Have you heard about Jake?" she said quietly. "Heard that his wife got up and left him. It seems that she gave their child to her parents. It turns out that she ran off with a wealthy man she met and wasn't an orphan after all." Tom and I looked at each other, a range of feelings coursing through us. A part of me still hurt for the suffering Jake must be going through in spite of everything. Jake called later that night, as if he was called by our thoughts. His tone was very different from the irate, demanding one we had become used to. Rather, he sounded desperate and shattered. He cried, "Mom, I'm so sorry for everything. Could we please start over? I am still your son, I know that. I am adaptable. I swear." I felt a familiar ache in my chest as I closed my eyes. "Oh, Jake," I mutely uttered. "I understand that you're in pain, but you must understand that your father and I have revised our will. Everything we own will be given to your son Thomas, whom you left behind." Jake started to yell instead of cry. "You're not able to do that. I'll return to Sarah now. We are able to restart." "Goodbye, Jake," I firmly stated, hanging up the phone. A short while later, Tom discovered me staring out at the lowering sun while perched on the porch swing. He sat next to me and held my hand. "You okay?" he inquired politely. I squeezed his hand and nodded. "Yes, I am." Although this isn't how I would have ended things, I believe that we are right where we belong. Indeed, we were. Despite being different from what we had anticipated, our new existence was full of love and meaning. Thomas loved to explore every corner of our house, and on weekends, his laughing could be heard throughout the house. Sarah had evolved into the daughter we never had, from being merely our son's girlfriend. "Grandfather, grandfather." One Sunday afternoon, Thomas's tiny voice rang out. "See what I'm capable of." We were ecstatic to see him stumble across the living room and fall into Sarah's waiting arms. Sarah raised her head to gaze at us, happiness glistening in her eyes. She muttered, "I don't know what I would have done without you two. I never imagined that you would act more like parents to me." I knelt next to her and gave them each a hug. "You and Thomas, you're our family, darling. Even if we tried, we couldn't adore you more." I felt a deep sense of tranquility sweep over me as I turned to face my family, noticing their soft eyes, Thomas's plump cheeks, and Tom's worn-out smile. Though it was not the life I had anticipated, it was nevertheless the most loving, joyful, and purposeful life I could have ever dreamed.